Hey, here we go again with another Torah Tuesday episode. We are continuing on in our study of the Ten Commandments, and this week we are at that super easy one, thou shalt not kill, or, probably better translated, thou shalt not murder. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? We can just go ahead and move on to the next one after this, right? No. This is actually, I'm going to propose to you, one of the most complicated of the commandments. Yeah, this is one of the most complicated of the commandments because it is completely open-ended. Thou shalt not kill, or thou shalt not murder, whom? And what does it mean to murder? Can I, clearly I shouldn't murder my brother, someone who's a fellow believer, but is it okay to murder, someone I don't like? Someone who's not a believer in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is it okay to murder them? Well, clearly no. So that seems pretty easy, right? But let's throw a wrench in there, okay? What if this person's trying to kill me? Do I have the right to defend my life? Okay, well, we can see that there is some clear precedent for being able to defend your life, except for when we get to Yeshua, who says those who live by the sword will die by the sword, and then rather than defend his life, he allows himself to be taken and crucified. And he teaches people, well, go ahead and allow yourself to be murdered. And this is a path that has been taken. Oh, well, Yeshua said, anything is murder, so we won't even defend ourselves. But then we have that whole verse about when Yeshua says, when you're going to travel on the road, he says, you need to sell something and buy some swords. And they say, well, we got 2 swords. Well, that's enough, right? So actually, he wanted them to have weapons. So there we have an instance where it's okay to defend yourself. So when is defending yourself not murdering, and when is it murdering? Very complicated situation there. Pretty easy to look at, though. When we take a big picture look, Yeshua's talking about, with the 2 swords, defending themselves against bandits, right? Outlaws, people operating outside of the law. He says you can defend yourself against those sorts of people, but when it comes to the civil authorities, the Romans, the temple guards, things like this, don't defend yourself. That we're not called to defend ourselves against these things, right? Okay, we got that. Well, does that mean that as believers in Yeshua that we should just give in to the Nazis in World War II? See how complicated this gets? So where does it stop at defending yourself? Where does it stop at, obeying the authorities versus an evil, destructive force? Things are a lot more complicated. And as myself, an American in the United States, I live in a country whose nation is founded on rebelling against the government. Open rebellion, fighting the authorities. So does that mean I should submit myself to the Queen of England? Because according to some definitions of what Yeshua said, that should have never happened, because we shouldn't be rising up against authorities. Is that really what the Bible's trying to tell us? Or is the Bible giving us a piece of wisdom saying, you shall not murder, but in reality, we have to look at each situation on a case-by-case basis. We see in the first century, rising up against the Roman Empire was absolutely futile. And on top of that, the people who were trying to rise up against the Roman Empire in the Judean culture, they were just the same. They were just as wicked as the Romans they were trying to replace. So we've got to take those things into consideration when we are approaching this commandment. Let me throw one more little wrench in there. What about when I go to the gas pump and I complain that I'm having to pay over $3 a gallon for gasoline? Bet you never thought about that. I believe it was Jimmy Carter who made the statement that America was justified to go to war to protect American oil prices. So, let me ask you a question. As a believer in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is it justifiable for a country to invade another country and kill their people in order to have lower prices at the gas pump? If we support that sort of action, what makes us any different from the people pulling the trigger, from the people making those decisions? You see, when we look at history, the people who have been responsible for the most death in the world, for the most part, didn't pull the trigger or swing the sword. They were the ones who demanded, who ordered these sorts of things. Hitler didn't kill 6 million Jews by himself. He wasn't the one individually killing them, but his wicked ideology and his direction as the leader and the people who surrounded him demanding these things make him just as guilty as the soldiers who released the gas in those prisons. So when we think about this commandment, thou shalt not murder, it goes a lot further beyond personally taking a human life. We've got to say, what sort of things are we standing up for? Are we saying it's okay to support a party that pushes for abortion or war or things like this? This is a much more complicated commandment than it appears at the surface. Amen? Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this teaching, please do us a favor and go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you can get future updates on new teachings that are available. And don't forget to check out the website faithofmessiah.com, where you can find a lot of great teachings as well as how to support this ministry. And if you'd like to invite Ryan White to speak, you can find out more information there. Shalom.